This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks, show number 603 with Erin Lawrence, recorded on March 14th, 2024. Here on Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from beautiful Bellevue, Nebraska. It's awesome weather here. I don't know. We're taking it. Of course, we're going to post the show. And Erin's coming in from a remote location. Weather's pretty good there too, right, Erin? Yeah,
it's not bad. Oh, and Now, just as we start the podcast, the dogs set off.
Obviously, the dogs are there with you in this undisclosed location. But
undisclosed.
We, of course, will post the show with some world-class show notes out at theaverageguy.tv. Big thanks to Jeff C., who joined me last week. A good show with him, if you haven't caught up with that. Theaverageguy.tv/HGG602 will get you there. And check that out as well. And then also a big thanks to our Patreon subscribers. If you are on the Patreon team and want to, or if you're not and you want to join us over there, theaverageguy.tv/Patreon will get you there as well. We'd love to have you join the team. Erin Lawrence is here with me. Erin, always great to have you on the show. Welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me back. It's my favorite podcast to do.
The background doesn't look the same. I'm assuming you're taking a little vacation at this point. Well, hey, wait a minute. Thank you for, you're on the show. You're on vacation. Thank you.
Jim, it's like I said, you're the favorite podcast that I do. I always love chatting with you, and your audience is the best. They're so engaged in tech and gadgets and just everything that's going on that it's fun for me to do your podcast. So I'm happy to be here.
I appreciate that. We set the dates and you said, yeah, I'd love this date. And then all of a sudden I'm sitting here like, wait a minute, she's on vacation. You should be out frolicking or wherever you're at, however people
You don't
frolic.
know that I wasn't frolicking minutes before got connected.
True. Yeah, you weren't sitting there studying like, oh, I can't wait to be on the podcast. You were probably.
I'm not going to lie. There might have been pool time recently. So
well, yeah, I hope so.
We're covered.
I hope so. Okay, good. Well, make sure you're using proper sunscreen. So that's my one PSA for the night. We want to get many of the links that we're going to talk about are going to be in the show notes. So you want to make sure you get back and see those. Erin does a great job of all these reviews, making sure it has all the details and a YouTube video, best reviews on the internet. So make sure you get that done. We'll have the links as well. You reviewed a 4K dash cam, and that's been something I know in some countries those will become a necessity, right? Because of so much fraud and insurance fraud. We may be getting to that point here in the United States. I don't know, but dash cams, I have noticed a lot of folks talking more and more about dash cams. What made you review this? Obviously, maybe somebody sent it to you, but talk a little bit about the review.
Yeah, so I got to review the Nextbase IQ, which is their newest dash camera. And the big thing with this camera is that it's 4K resolution. So it's that ultra high definition resolution. And it does make, from my experience with the camera, it makes a huge difference.
Really?
In the video quality that you get.
Okay.
Most dash cams are 1080. And I mean, they're okay. It's like video doorbell quality or, smart home security camera quality. It's okay. It'll do the job. But a 4K camera makes a huge difference in what you're able to see in, once you get the footage onto your computer, you can really actually blow up a frame and look at a license plate. So if you ever did need to get something, some information, a street sign, that license plate, or if you needed something, to be a witness to something that happened on the road, this is going to give you so much more detail.
I'm seeing from the picture, we're showing a little bit of the video on your site, forward and back on the cam. And I think 4K has always been a limitation just because of the file sizes and moving that around. I think maybe we're past that now. I'm sure you didn't have any trouble. And how did you move the video from, I'm assuming, off the camera onto your computer?
Yeah, a couple things. So 4K does eat up an SD card pretty quickly.
Yeah.
The good thing here, though, is it comes with an app that will give you some cloud storage. This this camera, this IQ camera, in order to really get the most out of it and properly use it and do anything but sort of take a live look through the camera, you need a subscription for this. So this is either going to be people thinking, well, yeah, or people saying, what? And then you got to pay a monthly fee for it. For this one, you do. And that's because this camera also has cellular connectivity. So once you install it in your vehicle, you're going to have 24/7 coverage. You can see what's coming if your kid has the car and they're out driving around. You can see what's happening both out front of the windshield and in the cabin of the vehicle. So it is a two-way camera. But all of that does come with bandwidth considerations, and you want to have these looks anytime you want. So there is a monthly fee for it. So I kind of think that's expected and probably necessary for a camera like this. But for some folks, that would probably be a deal breaker. I think the quality is really good. You can look in on the car or the drive, like I said, anytime using the app, or it will also record all the footage that it's gathering to an SD card. But the cards I was using were, I forget now what size they were, and I don't think I have one here now. But they would fill up within about 3 hours. So they were overwriting what had happened 3 hours before. So again, not unexpected for 4K resolution, but just something for folks to be aware of.
All this footage is in Vegas. Were you also doing some vacationing there and doing some recording?
I got to go to CES, the Consumer Electronics Show in January.
Yeah,
so while I was down there, I thought, what a great place to drive around. There's all kinds of lights and glitz and, craziness.
Although there's a lot of day shots that I saw that were in there.
Yes.
So yeah, there's a lot of day shots.
I'm just saying, in the evening time at cocktail hour, you got to park the car and you're on foot.
Yeah, well, Vegas is just tough to get around in anyway, right? You gotta kind of park as close as you can to something, and then, like you said, be on foot.
A lot of walking.
My feet never hurt more than CES, time at CES. Okay, so it's got its own cell coverage. It's uploading. The app is connecting to a service. If you want to see what's going on the camera right now, you can log into the app. Does that mean the camera's recording all that time, or is it only when you're viewing it, and does it have a sensor on it where if somebody was trying to break into the car, or if they were touching the car, if there's movement in the car, it kind of sounds a little Tesla-like.
Great question. It does have a parking assist feature. Actually, parking assist is probably not the right word for it. But if your car is parked, it's not recording when the car is parked and there's no movement. But if maybe somebody bumped into your car or walked by your car and sort of nudged it, or tried to open a door handle or something, it does detect motion. So it will light up and it'll start recording what it's seeing out the front of the camera, out of the windshield, and it'll also make a recording of what's happening inside the vehicle. So if somebody did get into your car and was trying to break in, you would certainly know about it because you'd get the alert, but you're also going to have footage on it. And you're going to have that footage not just on the SD card, because if they steal the camera and the SD card, you might think I'm SOL, except it's all on your app. You can download it at any time.
$700 for the device. How much was the subscription on it?
I want to say, this is going to be tough. Don't quote me, anybody, because I don't really remember off the top of my head. I think it's between $10 and $20. And if I remember correctly, they've got a couple different plans for how much you're using it.
Nextbase IQ is the name of that. Did you find, so after you got done with it, handy enough that you would say, you know what, it's worth listen, the one time $700 you get through, right? That subscription is what kind of starts adding up after a while. Whether that's $10 or $25 or whatever, right? $50 starts adding up. Would you hold on to it? Would that be something? And I think that I see a picture. Did you try it in the van? Doing van life?
Yeah, I did. I did. Our camper van is where I put it primarily. Yeah. This is kind of the question, and this is what I really wanted to get across in my review, is that, you got to fork out up front for the camera, and it is not cheap. And then you are going to have to keep paying for it because most of the features, I mean, there's also things like if it detects a crash, it's going to call emergency services for you. It has something called a witness mode where if you're getting pulled over or somebody approaches your car and you're concerned about what might happen, you can ask the camera to just start making a recording. So there's all these features. And I mean, they're useful and you're going to want them, but they do come with that cost. So I just think people need to be aware that if you're not willing to pay that monthly fee going forward, this is probably not the camera for you. Maybe wait until the next 4K camera comes along. Of course, you do also have the option of it just recording stuff to the cloud when you're driving, or sorry, not recording to the cloud, recording to the SD card when you're driving. So, but again, do you really want a cellular connected camera 4K resolution if you're just going to use an SD card for 3 hours? That's kind of not the best, the best use of your resources, I would say.
Excuse me. I think in some parts of the country, some parts of the US and some parts around the world, it's really important to have this. That's kind of value. In many places, I think, like here I live in Nebraska, I'm not actually too worried about that. That may be expensive for me. Have you tried any of there's phone apps that you can, that you can download that you put your phone, if you get your phone on the dashboard, and as you're driving, it'll come on and do the exact same thing. It'll upload to their service. You got a local copy of it as well. Front and back cameras. Have you tried any of those that then you're not having to buy? Now it's not in your car all the time and it doesn't call when you're in a crash and some of those kinds of things, but have you tried any of those?
I have not, no, but I'd be interested in learning more about them. I actually did not know that was a thing. And, now that you're saying it, I'm like, well, duh. Yeah. Why wouldn't they? Yeah. I mean, when you're not going to need a physical camera probably pretty soon.
Most people
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Most people have a phone in their car when they're with them. It's not going to give you the security features. I'll send you the link to the one I tried. I did it for a little while. Even in this even with that circumstance, I was like, because it's a subscription. Then I got to put my phone in there and remember to get. It'll actually, I think it's got it has a service that will automatically turn itself on if it senses that you're driving.
Does it give you a special mount? Because I'm thinking like you'd have to have a special suction cup mount right up.
I have a mount. I have a mount that sits on the top. And then I have my phone down just far enough so that it's not blocking any of the vision outside of my car. So it's sitting right down there. I can see completely over it. But the camera seeing out has pretty good at that point, has pretty good vision to the road. And those cameras are great, and it's like, so maybe you can do. Did you have any problems with this and how did they handle it?
Yeah, I did actually. When I got the camera at first, I spent about 3 days trying to set it up. So when I went to set it up and initialize it and connect it to my phone and get the camera sort of onto the cellular network, it's got its own SIM card. It's not an accessible SIM card, mind you, but it's got its own cellular service. So it just kept trying to connect and just trying to connect and trying to connect, and nothing was happening. So I reached out to Nextbase customer service and I got great help from them. I will say that. They sent me a bunch of software updates by email that I plugged the camera in and basically tried to goose the startup. And in the end, I mean, we spent hours back and forth with this and they were fantastic, but I just couldn't get it to work. So I sent them that camera back. They sent me another camera, and the new camera, I would say that one set up first try, 5 minutes, ready to go. So I was asking people on my YouTube channel if anyone else had had any experience with that camera, to let me know, because I'm curious about it. If I just happen to get a one-off lemon, something glitchy, or it might be a more widespread problem, I'd be interested in knowing.
Yeah. These things are getting so complicated and so small that I think that's a real comment. A lot of these companies are getting really good at returns to get a good one in your hands, just to get a good one in your hands. A couple questions coming in. Ken says, safe to leave drawing power in a standard 12-volt car battery? How often do you need to drive the car to keep it charged? I'm sure they're handling that in some way.
Yeah, I'm actually not sure how, like, if it would drain the battery. This one, there's sort of two ways to power it. It's not with a traditional cigarette lighter adapter.
Okay.
It will power off your fuse panel or off the OBD2 port, which is the onboard diagnostics port. So I'm not actually sure.
That's cool.
Like what the draw is off that, but it's consistent, reliable power.
Yeah, but it's got to be something. So
the van did start the last time I was out there. I haven't driven it in a couple of weeks, and it's still good. So.
Well, and it's possible if there's not a lot of events going on, and that it just won't use that. I mean, it just won't use that. It won't draw that much power. There's got to be some standby, but that's a pretty big battery for a little small device, right?
Yes,
you think that
I would say so. And you're right. It's not running 24/7. It's only sparking up when,
I mean, it's on, but it needs the minimal amount. And I'm sure they have tested this. But Ken, a good question. Bob makes a good point. Apps that record and upload can make your phone overheat, which is very true. So and I'm sure this is another one of those areas on a dedicated device like this they've tested for. But, you think about the summer on your dash. Most people's dashboards are black. Point. They're 1,000 degrees, both in Fahrenheit and Celsius. They're 1,000 degrees at the same time. And so that's a good point. I did not test my phone. I tested it briefly, and then I was like, this really doesn't make sense for me. So I stopped doing it, but a good reminder on that one. Then Tony says lots of news about car OEMs who do this, you think of like Tesla or I mean, my Subaru's got some cameras, not these kinds of cameras, but where cars are selling your data even to an insurance company. There's a lot of devices now insurance companies want to give you. They say, hey, plug this into your car and send us your information and we'll give you a discount if you drive safely. That's a hard thing to, because you're like, I trust them, but I don't. At the same time, I don't know. Would you allow your driving to be monitored if you thought it'd give you a cheaper insurance rate?
Great question. I haven't to date. I've had opportunities for that for, wear a Fitbit 24/7 and you get a discount on health insurance and, install something in your car that's going to keep tabs on you. In some ways, I like to believe in the innocence of of technology and just hope that, because I'm a good driver, they'll see that I'm a good driver and that's all they want to know. Yeah. But I'm not naive enough to think that's the reason. So I do think there is a data concern. I guess it's how much of your data and where is it going? I'm not ready for that just yet. I have a feeling, though, it's not going to come down to me being ready or not. It's going to be, if you would like insurance, these are the parameters. And if every insurance company decides they're going to do it, none of us is going to have a choice. Right.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right about that. Let's see. So Tony says he uses the USAA app, and I'm a USAA customer as well. And it's strict. And I've heard stories of that where it really wants you to drive like you're supposed to drive. Imagine that. Like, stop at stop signs, drive the speed limit.
Follow the speed limit.
Don't swerve, I had a friend that was using it. He uses it. I think he has Allstate or something, and he was using it. And he had to make a maneuver. He was driving and he had to make a maneuver for an emergency kind of situation, wherever somebody stopped in front of him and he had to kind of swing around him. And the app detects that and dinged him for driving recklessly. Right.
Wow.
It's like, I was doing, so there's these, I don't know. I think I'm with you. Joe says that the cell modem in his truck failed and he just opted to remove it entirely, take it out. And then Tony says it said I used my phone while I was driving. The Jeep was in park, for goodness sake. So Yeah, we're probably, that's the reliability of these kinds of things. The to just get back to your review for one more second before we move on. You also mentioned it's got some emergency capabilities as well, right? If you're in a crash, it'll detect it. Can you make a call through it since you have a cell phone in it? Can you make a call for emergency services like StarTech or TechStar or Stardom or whatever it
Mm.
is? I forget what I have in my car. I never use it
That's
because
a
I got a
good
phone on me. But
question.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, that's a good
Uh,
question. I didn't try that. I said this in my review. Like, I would love to see what happens if, you're in a crash and what the response is like. But
yeah,
I would absolutely not, make a fake
yeah,
call just for my YouTube channel.
no,
Some other
no,
channels might, but
yeah.
I will not.
OnStar.
Um,
That's what I was looking for. It's
yeah, yeah.
OnStar is what I have. Yeah, yeah.
So I don't actually know if it does that or not. That's a really
Okay.
good question. I don't think so, but the witness mode is kind of similar in that you have to upload 2 of your own contacts to the service. And what witness mode will do is it will start beaming your feed
Huh.
to those 2 contacts when you ask for it. So it's not like it's beaming it live to Facebook or whatever, but
Right.
and not the same as a phone call, but it does have some, I guess you could call them outreach capabilities.
Yeah, yeah. And that would be if you feel you're in danger or something, you could say go into witness
Yeah.
mode. So we get this. Would you now that you had this, will you go full time with it in some form or fashion, or when the trial is up? I don't know what your agreement is with
Yeah.
them, but would you go full time with it?
They did give me what do you call it, like a temporary access to the service. And funnily enough, the temporary access expired just as I was wrapping up my review. So
Okay.
I'm not driving as much these days as I used to. So that's a tough one for me because I think, if I'm going to keep this camera, I need to have the service, right? But with that said, I don't know that I drive enough anymore to warrant having a camera like this.
Yeah.
I think this is ideal for someone who is a professional driver, maybe Uber or Lyft, someone who has teenage drivers or new drivers in the car that they need to keep tabs on. For those of us who spend a lot of time working from home or have a really short commute, I don't know. It might not be worth it, but I will say taking it on a road trip was super fun.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. And I bet for like, Uber or Lyft, I wonder if you have to disclose if there's rules for that where if somebody gets in the car, you have to say, I do have a safety device in the car. I am recording this. That may make for safer or
I think
more
a lot of them have
civil.
stickers on the window, right? That say, you'll be recorded. Or
we don't have a lot of Uber in Omaha, so I don't see it a lot, but it just doesn't, we just don't, it's weird. I just don't see. Every once in a while I'll see one, maybe at the airport or something like that. But it's kind of just some interesting, I toyed with this for a while. I don't think I do it myself, but certainly in some areas, I think it may be really, really handy for people. So
I think so too.
Check that out. I threw the link. I'll put that link in show notes as well as I threw it in the chat if you want to check that out. Let's switch gears a little bit because I'm really, really interested in this. I watched some YouTubers who put out these animal cams. That's not what they're called, but they're like, they go out and strap them to a tree and put a battery in them, and some of them have cell service. But I'm also noticing on
Trap
YouTube,
cams, I think they're called, right?
Yeah, I think so. And many of them just want to see what's out there, and they want to see what's, on their land or whatever. But lately we're seeing some of these bird feeder, bird cams, squirrel cams kind of show up at the household level, right? Where folks can put these kinds of things out. You reviewed a smart bird feeder with a camera. What led you to this, and tell me a little bit about it?
I recently started feeding the birds in our yard. Mainly just, I like the sound of birds in the yard. Yeah. I don't know anything about birds. I'm not one of those people who's out there with the binoculars, spotting osprey. if that's a bird. I don't know.
I think so. I think just go with it.
Somebody will let us know. We'll go with it. But I like having life in the yard, and I like having the sound of birds in the yard, especially in the morning. It's a really cheerful way to start the day. So in, doing the tech research that I do, I was looking around and I came across this smart bird feeder camera, and this one is called Bird Buddy. So I asked husband Roger for it for Christmas, and he delivered. So the premise of this camera is, or I should say this bird feeder, is that it's got a camera module built into it, and it's removable. So you can take the camera module out of the feeder, charge it up if you need to. It's got a rechargeable battery. But then you basically just fill it with seed like you would a regular bird feeder. The camera's in there. And when birds come to get their, breakfast, lunch, or dinner, you can see it on this camera. And the camera will record short videos of all the bird interactions. And it's also got, I guess you could call it AI bird identification. So if something comes to your feeder, and it's not your, traditional sparrow or whatever, it's able to identify the birds for you. So it was a really cool concept, and I was really excited about it.
So since Christmas, it's winter for you. Have you had birds come to it? Have you set it out, or are you getting good enough weather that it's working?
Oh yeah, we get birds all the time, all year. Okay. They're a little less exotic in the winter than they are in the summer. But yeah,
camera.
You
big
put out
camera.
bird seed. It is a big camera. The camera
it's way bigger than I thought. It was like this tiny when I was looking at the product, but that's a pretty big camera.
Yeah, it's kind of almost the size of I don't know, what would that be? A soda can ish?
Yeah,
maybe a little
pretty
smaller.
Good pictures, right?
Yeah, it's 1080 video. Again, we were talking about video resolution standard for doorbells and security cameras and things. That's kind of standard. In this case, the birds are getting quite up close to it. So it's able to get some really good shots up close. And it's actually pretty impressive what it's able to capture in terms of video and photos.
Do you feel like you have a better handle on the birds in your neighborhood? Like the kinds? Because I have no idea. Blue jays or, cardinals. Yeah, they're easy to recognize. The rest of them, I don't have a clue. Are you learning about your birds?
I am learning, but like I said, I didn't get really any exotic birds. It was mainly sort of sparrows and.
But this is a white crowned sparrow. I would have not known it's a white crown. That seems exotic to me.
Either. Yeah, no, it does. The knowledge part was actually really interesting because, I think they call them brown birds or something, the sparrows and the chickadees and that kind of stuff. And, magpies we get a lot of in Calgary. So, what those birds are. But when something comes to the feeder, we had woodpeckers and things like that. It's just really cool to get that additional detail that I didn't know there's apparently 3 or 4 kinds of sparrows. So you get that bird identification and then it tells you.
We had set up a couple years ago a hummingbird feeder that I would have loved to have had more, pictures of. Are there any kind of add-ons? Could I do a hummingbird thing with something like this? Is that possible?
Well, Jim, let me tell you, not only does Bird Buddy have a hummingbird feeder coming out, but there's another company called Birdfy, which I just finished the review of their smart bird feeder cam, which is going to be on the YouTube channel tomorrow, youtube.com/Erin Lawrence TV. And I think it's up at techgadgetscanada.com as well. But they also have a hummingbird feeder they have just released, and I'm waiting for that to land in my mailbox shortly. So I will report back on the hummingbird front.
Not the cheapest bird feeder you'd ever buy, right? Talk about now. This was a Kickstarter that you started with, but there's probably more of these. But it's pretty expensive, do you think?
They are quite expensive. Bird Buddy in particular. I want to say it was close to $300.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, if you say, I'd like a $300 bird feeder for Christmas, please, your husband's head explodes. But then when you say, but it's smart and there's that giant camera in it and it comes with artificial intelligence, he goes, okay, yeah, my wife's a tech blogger. So, but it is quite expensive. I don't think this is going to be for everybody. The other thing about the Bird Buddy camera, I will say, is it's not a great bird feeder. Now, going back to what I said about I'm not the bird lady with the binoculars and stuff, but I've got a couple bird feeders out in my yard. You learn very quickly what makes a good bird feeder and what doesn't. And if the feeder is kind of really open and allows the seed to just flow through, you're out there filling that thing up every day. The Bird Buddy bird feeder was like that. I was filling it up. I could have filled it up twice a day on some occasions, but I was filling it up every day. The design of it also is not the smartest. The way you got to fill it is you got to tip the feeder forward to open a door in the back. And then you have to pour the seed in with a special little cup that they give you. And then while you're doing that and have this feeder tipped forward, all the seed that you're pouring in is now flowing out the tray at the bottom in the front.
Yeah.
So the design for me, was just like, it looks fantastic. It's super fun. The camera works great, but they forgot what its first purpose was, and that's to feed the birds. Yeah. So I didn't have the greatest experience with Bird Buddy. And then, after spending all that money and finding that and quite a few more flaws with it, that's one I'm not recommending. But if I can spoiler alert the audience for a sec, the Birdfy one that I just finished with is my new number one pick. It's great.
Okay. And do you have a review out for that, or is that coming up?
I do. I think that one is up now on techgadgetscanada.com, and it should be up on the YouTube channel at Erin Lawrence TV tomorrow, very early in the morning.
Oh, okay. So very recently, as we're looking at this.
Yeah. Fresh content, hot off the press.
Hot off the press, like that. Would you DIY this now that you know? Okay, hold on. Before I go to the DIY, a couple other things maybe you didn't like about it. One, this is another service you have to, right? Because there's no SD card to get out. Oh, by the way, hold on. Let me get to the chat room. They reminded me it's called a trail cam, Jim. Trail cam. Trail cam.
What did I call it? A trap cam?
Trap cam, I think. Yeah, Bob had said there's some bald eagle nest cams that they do this. These kinds of things. Andrew says avian intelligence. That's pretty smart.
That's a good one.
Joe says we have a lot of cardinals. We do too. We don't mind those, but the mud birds are a pest. We've got some crows that are kind of pests out there. So this is a service that you have to do. I have to subscribe to get the pictures off this thing, and do they hold on to them for a while? I mean, how's that work?
Yeah, you get, I think it was, I've got to remember now, like short video clips with limited cloud storage. You can download them to your phone through the app for the Bird Buddy one. The Birdfy one, by contrast, doesn't have any monthly fees, and I think it gives you shorter clips, and again for a limited time. But yeah, I mean, it is, for some of these, it is going to be another monthly fee. And with the Bird Buddy in particular, between filling the feeder and the battery, I mean, the battery lasts about 5 or 6 days because there's so many birds that can come and eat all the food. So between going out there and filling it up every day and then having to go out and get the camera and bring it back in and recharge it and put it back outside, between that and then you're paying a monthly fee and the camera's dead and the feeder's empty, it was like, I can't.
Yeah, it's maintenance. All of a sudden, you're like, I'm doing this thing every day. Like, this was the thing with even for me, and we put out just an old school hummingbird feeder. And, you really ideally, especially in hot weather, want to change that every couple days, that water every couple days. Yeah. It's just sugar water, but they're birds. I mean, they still have feelings. And so, you don't want to just have them hot water, so we go out and change it. Do you think like, if could you get a better bird feeder and then maybe DIY this with your own camera? And I was kind of thinking maybe even run a, put it in a spot where you can run PoE, powered power over Ethernet to the camera, and then just feed those back into your house. And that's running all the time. You don't have to change the battery. You get a better bird feeder. It's a little bit more technical work. This audience could probably handle it.
I was just going to say, someone in your audience has probably done this already.
They might be doing it right now.
Tell us about it. We're doing it right now. That would be ideal. And I mean, the other option you have with most of these cameras, Bird Buddy and Birdfy included, is adding a solar panel to keep it charged up. With Bird Buddy, that was an extra cost over the model, over the $300 I paid for the camera already. With Birdfy, the unit I picked out did come with a solar panel. And I think the Birdfy overall cost, even when you sort of balance out solar panel versus not, was still less expensive, which is kind of another big check mark in my book. So,
yeah. Okay. We'll have to check out your review on that. That may be a better option thinking through. And I have to look into that because I'd love to get, we sit out on the deck and enjoy, and the birds come around, but it would be nice to get some pictures of them. I'm kind of wondering how long that would last. Like, you get the pictures in the first week, and maybe you experience this too. You get the pictures in the first week. Oh, this is so cool. And you're scrolling through them. Then the second week, not so much. And the third week, maybe a few times. And then do you sense a little, and so, that maybe in the summer it gets better as there's more birds, but you got to really like birds, right?
I think you do. And you're right. I mean, initially I was so excited about this bird feeder. Like, I couldn't wait and was checking in all the time. But then after you've seen sort of 89 sparrows, and 57 chickadees, you're like, can you not just alert me when something cool shows up? And Bird Buddy is kind of supposed to do that because it has the AI recognition. It'll tell you like, hey, something new stopped by. But I found that it was saying, oh, something new has stopped by, and it was another chickadee. So I don't know that the alert system on it is as great as it could be either. My thing with Bird Buddy is wait for Gen 2. I think the company has to be getting all this feedback, from everyday consumers and probably other reviewers as well. So I would hope that they're working on a Gen 2 model that's going to address a lot of these issues.
Okay. Well, that's good advice. Check out both reviews. Head over there, techgadgetscanada.com. I've thrown the link for that, for the Buddy review in chat and in the show notes. I'll look up that one for the new one coming out too. We'll have it available in your show notes. Okay. Erin, it wouldn't be a Home Gadget Geeks with you if we didn't talk about coffee. And I feel kind of like maybe you're cheating on coffee a little bit. You got a new, kind of a new pod a new pod device. I don't even know how to pronounce this thing. Can you help me out?
I'm from Canada, so this should be easy, but my French accent is terrible. It's LOR.
Okay. We'll just call it LOR for that would be Nebraskans. Like they would say LOR.
I like the Nebraska pronunciation. That works for me.
Exactly.
Yeah. So this is a new coffee pod concept, but it's not really that new. What this is I think it's Philips has made this new coffee machine, and it uses Nespresso. We'll call it Nespresso type pods, but they are exact duplicates of Nespresso pods. So they're exactly the same size and shape and configuration, which means you can use traditional Nespresso pods in the LOR machine. So the interesting thing about this, though, aside from the fact that I was like, wow, new pod coffee maker, very cool, is that it will also do brewed coffee through pods as well. But the coffee pods are actually bigger than the espresso pods, and they still fit into the same receptacle inside the machine. So it's truly a 2-in-1 coffee and espresso pod machine. It was very impressive.
Now Philips makes this, so they're not a coffee company. They're just cheating on us with this. But it is it kind of loads. It's funny. It's like it loads like a Keurig, but it takes Nespresso pods, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of a different with an espresso maker, with a traditional one, it'll spin those pods to get the,
Hmm.
it pre moistens them, and then as it's brewing the coffee, it's spinning that pod. That's kind of their claim to fame, right?
Yeah.
With Nespresso.
This is more like traditional Nespresso. The spinning pods that you're talking about is the
It's the
virtual
newer.
line from
Yeah.
Nespresso.
Mhm.
This is more like this uses the original line pods.
Yeah, I always forget that the Nespresso had both the kind of the Keurig style, and then they got really fancy with and that's the one I got for Christmas one year. Sarah bought it for me. I've never looked back.
Very
And
nice.
now we have Nespresso business service at work with some super fancy machines. Yeah. The pods they're still tinfoil or foil pods, right? They're about this big around, maybe like a silver dollar, and they're like a pillow, and you just drop them in there's a little slot up top. You drop them in, and it will say what do you want, espresso, or you want to make a coffee or an Americana. Hit the button, drops the thing in, and makes the coffee for you. It's been pretty cool. You're a coffee connoisseur, and you raise your nose at the way I make coffee, but how's the coffee on this taste?
It's good. I think my interpretation of the whole LOR brand is that they're trying to do this like ultra premium coffee thing. And I don't know. I mean, the coffee was fine. I didn't think it was ultra premium, but I'm also really specific in the kind of coffees that I like. I think for your average coffee drinker, people would try this coffee and be like, "Hey, it's really good." So yeah, I mean, it was fine. And then the great thing about it is if you're not feeling the fancy coffees from the LOR lineup, you can just go back to using Nespresso pods too.
Yeah. And I'm assuming there's no problem. No, Nespresso doesn't have any problem allowing Philips to run Nespresso pods through their machine.
My guess is there's some kind of lucrative licensing agreement.
You think so? Okay,
I don't know this for a fact, but
yeah. You think
I
they've
think
licensed
Nespresso's
them.
probably like, yeah, you guys go on to make your own pods, but
Yeah,
you're gonna have to pay a fee for our technology. That would be my guess.
Is this good enough for a daily driver for you from a coffee standpoint? And what about a price standpoint?
Yeah, it was a cool machine. I had a few things I didn't really like about it. For starters, the pods load into the top of the machine, and it's got sort of this really big handle lever thing that lifts up to get the pods in. And I mean, it lifts like all the way up. I think it like adds another 12 or 13 inches onto the height of the machine. So it can be really difficult to use under a cabinet. The water reservoir was really large, which is good because then you're not sort of filling it up every couple of days. But by contrast, if you are using it to make those larger coffees, the brewed coffees, it does eat the water up faster. So of course they've put a larger water reservoir in there. I mean, it's a cool machine. It's a cool concept. Is it worth the price? I think if you're into pod coffees, you can probably get a basic Nespresso machine for a lot less. But at the same time, a Nespresso machine is not going to be able to make you brewed coffees. So you might need a second machine. So like with a lot of this technology, Jim, it's how you want to use it or how you anticipate using it. And if you're a diehard espresso drinker, which is all you want it for, a basic Nespresso machine is going to do you fine. Mm-hmm. And if you want a little more out of your machine, we could do a whole show about coffee appliances and machines and automatic and everything.
And you could make me feel bad about the way I make my coffee, but that's okay. Not that I'm bitter or anything along the bitter. That was probably a pun, wasn't it?
Really using your bean there, Jim.
Nicely done. About 200 for this machine. Certainly, any big box store, both Target and Walmart here in the United States. This is a section now. Like It used to be all drip,
It's an
and
industry.
now, man, coffee, the Nespresso or both Nespresso and espresso machines are, I mean, they're taking over. They're like a whole section.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's special issue pods and roasts, and
Yeah.
I had to tell your former co-host Mike about there was a special set of Nespresso pods that came out. The Cafecito de Cuba ones were out last fall, and I mean that's a favorite one of mine. But yeah, they have seasonal roasts and limited edition and holiday gift packages. Yeah, it's a cottage industry all unto itself.
Yeah, there is. Tony reminds us, of course, all of this, especially with Nespresso, there's waste associated with this. The Nespresso pods are foil of some kind and plastic. Keurig has that. There's some services to do, and Tony says, "Did you see that Keurig pods are compostable, and don't use plastic?" Andrew says, can you load your own shots into this Philips machine? That's kind of what he's asking.
I think if you have one of those adapters, that they sell, it would take one of those adapters. Okay, I did not try it with that, but I mean, it's standard size. So if it works in a traditional Nespresso, it would work in this.
I honestly don't know why you would do that. Like for me personally, like if I'm going to go to that much trouble to put a little bit of coffee in a thing and load it, I'm just going to make a pot with perk or drip or something along those lines. So
I think we talked about that. I used to have like a manual espresso machine, and I mean, it makes great coffee and there's very little waste aside from the coffee compost.
Yeah.
But it's an art. And, there were days where I'm going through 2 or 3 or 4 shots to get the right shot because the pressure in the air is off, and the bean grind was just not quite right because of the humidity in the room. And as much as I appreciate that people love doing that, it was not for me. And that's when I switched to pods, because I was like, time, cost, benefit, trouble analysis was just like, at that time of the morning, I just need a double espresso.
I know.
I don't want science. I don't want to experiment.
I would grind the beans, and then I'd have a scoop, and I'd scoop it into the handle, and then get the right amount and tamp it down with the right pressure, and then put it in and bolt it down like it's a space shuttle component or something, and then hit the button, and and then it was loud, it'd grind, pushing that water through. Then at the same time, I'd put some milk in a frother, put it up to the milk frother. I mean, it was a whole process just for a latte.
Yeah.
Now that's not bad. I was still a better latte than I get at Starbucks, and it'd take me, probably 5 minutes, maybe a little bit more, and a lot cheaper. But it was a lot of work. And now with an espresso, throw the espresso pod in, get that started, have a little magnetic frother, fill that up, hit the button, walk away.
Yeah.
Come check some email, come back 3 minutes later, the milk's ready, coffee's ready, pour them together, rinse it out. It's done. Super convenient that way, right? I mean, so you can do it a little bit easier. Uncle Marv wants to know with the Philips, what the LOR, as we say in Nebraska, LOR. Does it come with an app? Is it connected?
No app. No, it is not connected. That's a great question, Marv. Totally great question. No app. It is not smart. And it doesn't need to be.
So not connected. You don't have to get a Wi-Fi. No. But you can't schedule it either. You can't tell the A lady to start the coffee for you.
No, that's true. But I'm sure somebody must make a smart connected Nespresso machine by now, don't they? I haven't seen it because I would totally review that. But
Bob says Mr. Coffee's no longer considered a coffee maker, and that brand. It's interesting, that brand has kind of moved on a little bit in the coffee space. They're still making them, but maybe not to the level before. Kevin says I started volunteering at my county's Fix-It clinics Dead Keurig machines kept coming in the door. One of the guys had art to fix them. You gotta think about how many Keurig machines are out there. They can't last too long. Have you had one break on you? Have you had one of these kinds of machines?
The very first Nespresso machine I ever got, I would say I got it about 7 or 8 years ago, and I still have it. It still works perfectly. Never had a problem with it. And I've tried others off and on since then, or, used friends. And actually, I can think of another friend that I know who've at least had their machine a few years before I got mine, and theirs is still going strong. So I have heard, I've seen things online, people's reviews saying, the seals might break on them or they start to leak after a while. I haven't had any problems with mine, but that's just me.
We have one at work. We have an industrial, I don't even say that. It's not the biggest Keurig, but it is one that was kind of designed, I think, for a workplace. Right. We beat the crap out of that thing, and just keeps going. It just keeps going. And then they replaced them, or they're starting to replace them with these Nespresso workplace machines, whatever, fancy buttons. You can tell it what kind of coffee, and then it asks, do you want more coffee when you're done? And you push the button and it just keeps going. It'll keep going for you to kind of finish.
Quizzing you.
Yeah. It's just like, hey, you still there? Did you really want this coffee?
Can I help
kind
you
of thing.
Would you like some?
We get some Starbucks branded pods. We get we have some caramel espresso pods that we get.
Wait till it gets the facial recognition in there, and then it sees you coming, and it's like, Jim,
just make it for me.
Would you like a latte?
An arm would come out, drop the pod in. That'd be awesome. At least it wouldn't judge me by the way I make my coffee. So that review is up and ready to go. We always talk about coffee when you're here. This is an area I kind of thought to be honest with you, I kind of thought we were done with coffee technology with the drip machine years ago, but it's a whole new thing. Like it's definitely coming back for sure.
I've spent the last few months, I would say, reviewing a whole bunch of different styles of coffee maker. And I was only half kidding when I said we could turn coffee into a whole show. Yeah. But there's I've reviewed a Ninja machine that's got, I think it's got Keurig and a big dripper pot. I'm trying to think of the other ones that I've reviewed recently. There's all kinds of different sort of gimmicks out there, and they'll do espresso, they'll do coffee, they'll hold it in a carafe, they'll, dispense it on demand. It's crazy. Whatever you want around your coffee, you can get. Yeah. No, right on. And even with my Nespresso filters that I have recycle, they send me a bag. I throw them in the bag, seal it up, give it to the UPS guy, and he takes them back for recycle. It's pretty great. Too. So, yeah. Andrew says, he can compost his paper filters. And I do compost, when I perk it, and I'm not perking as much as I used to. During the pandemic, I was perking every day. I mean, I was making a gallon of coffee every single day, right? Or at least what it felt like. Now kind of just on the weekends and maybe a day if I'm home, one of the days I'm home. But I get that coffee, and it's a good reminder of why I did it. You're like, oh, this coffee is so good. And I'm not saying, the Nespresso or whatever else I'm making isn't good. It's just that pot of coffee that I make just tastes so good. And you're like, oh yeah. Well, and that's, we've talked about that too. You and I and our different coffee tastes. I get mine shipped from another country because I like it so much. No, so right on. I hear that. We like our coffee the way we like our coffee.
Just don't judge me. Stop judging. No, I'm just kidding. Let's shift gears one more time really quick and I don't know why. Oh, it's because I'm not on the right screen. Well, I actually had a guest on talking about this idea. Well, Gavin came on and was talking a little bit about his sensors, his water sensors and sprinkler controller. And looks like you got your hands on a Moen Smart Sprinkler Control. Is this something you got installed and you're going to get to use this spring, or are you waiting for it coming up.
Yeah, I put it in a friend's house because I mistakenly thought this was something you could hook up to a hose and then it'll control, and then you can sort of run, tubes and whatever off the hose bib. And that's not what it is. So I was like, oh, okay. So I put it in a friend's house. And what this is it's called the Moen Smart Sprinkler Controller. And if you've got an in-ground built-in sprinkler system, an automatic watering system, this will control it for you. So it's really just one thing. It's a box that you connect all of your sprinkler wires into. I did the installation myself for it. I was actually really intimidated and did not want to mess with this because I don't know anything about sprinklers. And I was like, oh my gosh, if I wreck this, my friend is going to kill me. But it's actually really easy. So I had it installed in just a few minutes. And then you set it up with the Moen app. And what it lets you do is gain full control over your entire yard. So much like a regular sprinkler system and a sprinkler controller, you can set schedules, you can do manual watering, but this one goes a lot farther than that. And one of the big selling points, I guess, of this is with a lot of older sprinkler controllers, you've got to go to the controller and you've got to adjust a dial or push a button or, program the times that you want it to go and how long you want it to run for. And the old one on my friend's house it was like 4 dials and 16 buttons and nothing worked. And you had to push buttons in a certain sequence. Like it was tedious to make any kind of changes to. This, on the other hand, is as simple as going into the app and going, I would like it to water every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for 5 minutes in the morning and 3 minutes in the evening, and done. And the next level of this is it comes with, well, I shouldn't say it comes with, you can get wireless soil sensors for it. And these are essentially giant flat stakes that you will just drive into the ground, either into a flower bed or your lawn or whatever. And they sense the moisture in the soil and beam it back to the sprinkler controller. So even if you've got watering schedules set, if the ground is too wet, it's not going to trigger them. So really smart, great way to save water. And just, I was blown away by how easy it was to set up and easy it was to program and make changes to.
I'm most impressed. Well, Moen has been in the water business for a super long time. So good to see them doing something like this. But the sensor buries itself in the ground and you can kind of mow over it. The ones Gavin and I were looking at, I think this was last fall. He kind of did something like this with some sensors. They stick out of the ground, and I'm always afraid I'm going to step on them, or somebody's going to steal them, or they're going to get run over by the mower type deal. Is this truly? And then it looks like the top of it's kind of glass, or something breakable. Is that true? And is I pounding it in the ground? Is that a problem?
It's just shiny. I've got one here. I don't know quite what it's made for.
Wait a minute, you took one on vacation?
I have it. I like to travel with my, water measuring devices. Right. But it's, I don't know. It's kind of like a metally plasticky thing. And so the top, there we go, is just kind of shiny plastic, I guess.
So just kind of shiny, not necessarily, it just looked delicate. And I was like, I'm going to put this thing in the ground, and then I'm going to take a 2x4 and pound pound it in to get all the way in. It could withstand that. I take it.
I tried to be gentle with it just because I'm not sure. Like, I don't even know what powers this. You set these up by holding them over a magnet on the front of the sprinkler controller. Okay. And it just sparks to life. And then I guess when the battery dies, they're supposed to last 6 years, the sensors here. But when the battery dies, you just replace the stake. So I don't actually know how it's powered, and I didn't know how delicate it may or may not be. So I did try and be kind of gentle when I was putting the stakes in, but they don't seem to be worse for the wear.
Well, and you kind of wonder, maybe in this colder climates, I'm sure it's a battery of some kind that powers. It can't be magic. Yeah. In the colder climates, maybe that lifespan's a little shorter. Would be nice to have a port that you can, although it's in dirt, so maybe this isn't a good idea, but maybe a way to replace the battery or something. It doesn't seem. Also, it
Yeah.
also sounds like it's proprietary to their sensor. If you're holding it over and the magic happens, that it senses it, and then you're
Yeah, for
taking it
sure.
out to another location. Would be
As
nice
far
if
as I
those
can
were
tell, these
open.
don't open. There
Okay.
doesn't look like
Yeah.
any way to
Yeah.
open this, but
It's a great design. I really like the design on it. And I guess I'd like it to be a little more open than just Moen, but that's the way these things go. That's the way these things go.
I
Your
think that'll
neighbor,
come. Somebody's always got to start
will your
with it,
neighbor
right?
leave
And
it
then
attached, do you think? Or if they had
yes,
the
yeah.
option to leave it attached, would they leave it attached?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
It is so much better than the old system, like I said, which
Yeah.
was dials and buttons, and you need an engineering degree to program it.
Yeah.
This is so much easier, leaps and bounds.
It is getting better. Like, this is a space we've been talking about this for the last maybe 2 years, and there's different valves and different systems and different ways of automating this, and it is getting better each year. It seems like at some point somebody will figure it out and then everybody will copy them. But even in the area of like robot lawnmowers, like those have gotten better, right? They've learned from their mistakes, and so that it is getting a little easier. When we had the guy on, and I forget, I didn't look it up in advance, but when I had the guy who had one sprinkler that was super smart, and it basically used the technology of a 3D printer to water your lawn. That was the whole idea. Like, how do we get water exactly to the right area? Somebody in chat will tell me who that is here in just a second. As I'm talking, I can't remember it.
I think I got offered the opportunity to review those.
Yeah.
And I don't remember why I think it's because you need a built-in sprinkler system for it,
you
right?
got to
It's not
install.
something you can just drop in. Yeah.
No,
That was why. So
yeah.
But I mean, that technology looks incredible. If it does what it says it does, another game changer, right?
Yeah. But I'd want some sensors with that too. They've got they've got some technology where they're watching the weather and some of those other kinds of things. There we go.
This one does too. The Moen app will use the weather as well. If you don't have the soil sensors, it can adjust the watering based on weather as well.
Yeah. I just want the sensors. That's just me. Like, I just really want a full system that's super smart, watching the lawn. And then I'd be disgruntled that I was using too much water. That's the way I operate. I would.
Well, this is all designed though to use less water.
Yeah, I
right?
know.
So
but if you use zero water now and I start watering my lawn, like my lawn is survival of the fittest for the most part. I mean, I do water it from time to time, but not on a regular basis, just when it's needed and only to keep it alive. If it looks like, I mean, in past years, we've gotten enough rain that the lawn's been fine without irrigation. And if it does get dry, you just kind of water it. And I actually have less lawn than I used to have. I'm trying to remove some of it. I put it in a giant fire pit, some of those kinds of things to get it done. Bob says here, and we'll wrap this up. He says the steaks look like they're $70 to replace. They do look fancy. They do look cool, but
they are indeed $70. Yes.
And to Tony's point, another home assistant tie-in. That's what I'd love. I wonder if Moen's got a home assistant. I have to ask Gavin the next time he's on if that Moen can do something with Home Assistant.
It integrates, yes, with Google and Alexa.
Okay, good. Yeah, then you could most likely get that into Home Assistant as well. Hey, just on the way out, real quick, before I let you go, any new stuff coming up that you're just excited to talk about that may be showing up at techgadgetscanada.com here in the future?
I do have... Let's see. There's new robot vacuums coming out from Ecovacs, from Roborock, and from Tineco. So I'm hoping to get hands-on with a lot of that through spring and summer. I've also been getting a ton of pitches for, you said it earlier, robot lawnmowers.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a robot lawnmower now. Some of the bigger brands that you would expect, those lawn and garden outdoor brands, but also a lot of folks you've never heard of. And I had a chance to see one of them at CES at the electronics show called Robo Up. And that one looks like a rugged beast of a lawnmower. And by beast, I mean tough, not necessarily ugly, but can climb hills a little better, has kind of more of a drivable design as opposed to just like a robot vacuum that's just going to go forwards and back kind of thing. So I think this could be the summer where robot lawnmowers start to really creep into people's lives in more of a
no pun
meaningful
intended.
way.
Yeah, well, hopefully. I mean, again, I look at them and I'm like, I think I'm going to get one, and then I'm like, I'm getting less lawn. I could mow the lawn. It's the only exercise I really get, So I desperately want one, and I desperately don't want to spend $2,500 on one. So maybe we'll see some.
And they are pricey.
Speaking, and I don't want you to give the answer away on this one, but speaking of cheapo, you did a review on a $20 robot vacuum. And I want everybody, I'm going to throw this link in the chat, and I'm going to put it on the website. Erin, I don't want you to say anything because I want folks to go out. Is it worth it, or was it not worth it? Again, don't give it away. I want folks to go out there. $20 robot. Where are we? What does it have, like a subscription? Do you have to pay? Does it serve you ads when it's going around the house?
That would be an interesting way to go. I think we're all expecting Amazon is going to do that. Although didn't they buy iRobot and then
I think they did
unbuy them?
Oh, I don't know.
Or am I thinking of something else? But either way, you could totally see your Amazon floor robot serving you ads. I could
right on. Like it would have a screen that would pop up while it's moving around, and it would
follows you around the house.
It would have ads.
Do you want more coffee?
Come up. It'd be playing commercials really loud. Exactly. Exactly. Buy this new Nespresso maker today. Oh, would you like to order that on Amazon? Right?
Jim, it looks like you're low on Nespresso pods.
Exactly. It's not that it was creeping on you, but I was checking out your pod supply. Hey, stop looking at me. Mops
Amazon
too?
Already has a robot that roves around your house.
I know. Does this thing mops too? This $20 vacuum, does it mop as well?
Jim, I'll say it says it mops.
Okay. Oh, it's a good review.
It says it mops.
Home Gadget Geeks friends, this is your homework. I don't often give you homework, but I'm giving you homework here. Head out to techgadgetscanada.com. The link is is both here and live, folks. I'm going to do a little post show. So live folks, your homework right now is to click on the link. I did put that in chat. Yeah. Click on the link. I want you to review the right now. We're going to let Erin go here in a second. During the post show, I want your thoughts on the $20 robot vacuum, and we'll come back around to that. Erin, thanks again. Even on vacation, you are kind enough to be on my show, and I always appreciate it. It's always valuable. Thanks for coming on, and thanks for coming out. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for continuing to have me, and thanks to the audience for listening in. It was nice to hear from everybody tonight.
Tell husband Roger that we said hi, and that and we appreciate that he gives you up for 90 minutes so we can have you on the podcast as well. So tell him thank you.
I will pass it on. Thanks.
We will let you go. Thanks, Erin, and stay cool and have some fun.
You bet, Jim. Bye.
All right, take care. We'll see you. All right, your homework is to head out there. The link's in the show notes if you want to do it. We'll talk a little bit about that in post show. A couple reminders on the way out. One, again, big thanks to Erin Lawrence. Always fun to come on, and always great to have her be a part of the show. I just always enjoy it. If you want to join the conversation in the Discord group, head out to theaverageguy.tv/Discord. Love to have you as part of the conversation. Nicest group, best behaved group on the internet. That's what I'm going to say. You guys do a nice job. Those of you who are out there, and yep. Brian, here, I'll throw these up. Always great to have Erin on. Bob, thanks for saying thanks. So if you want a great conversation and some good folks, join the Discord group. A little bit like the old home server show days when we had the forums out there. Not as active, but that's okay for me. I'm okay with that. You can leave a message for me. Head out to homegadgetgeeks.com, hit the microphone button. My brain's pretty fried at this point. Hit the microphone button and leave a message, 30 seconds, and then send me an email, jim@theaverageguy.tv, that you've left that message. I had a soda during the show. That probably wasn't the smartest thing. This probably not the smartest thing to do. I'm burping it back up. The AverageGuy.tv platform, both web and media hosting, powered by Maple Grove Partners. Get secure, reliable, high-speed hosting for people that you know and you trust. Of course, you know that's Christian. Check it out today, maplegrovepartners.com. And he'd really love to have your business if you need something hosted. I got a cold about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And a lot of folks have been struggling with this. Man, it left some respiratory issues, and it's caused my voice to be super scratchy. So apologize. I had to cough during the show a couple times, and so I feel fine. I just still struggling with a little bit of just a little bit. Somebody was like, "Man, your voice is sounding hoarse." It's because I've been having to cough so hard with what's been left over from this. So it's been a real struggle. Otherwise, health is good. I know for you guys that have been around a while, and you know the surgery I went through in December and partial prostate removal, and that's all wrapping up, which is good. I see the doctor in a month or so. I'll get scoped. I'll get my bladder scoped just to make sure that's doing well and it feels well. I'm kind of back to new as far as that, as far as the bladder goes. I feel like I'm 20 years old again, and you're like, I'm not even sure I peed that well when I was 20. And it's pretty great. You don't know what you got till it's gone, right? So those things are all back. I've been working out, lifting again, lifting heavy stuff, which I couldn't have done for a while. And health is good. We're back to some amount of normalness with it. Again, I'll have some I will have some tests done here in a month or so to check the bladder. And then summer, a new PSA, which is really they're testing for cancer at that point. So we already know I don't have very much of a prostate left, so those numbers can't be very high when they come back. But if they are, we'll give it 6 more months, and then at the year mark, I'll have a PSA done again, and that'll really be what tells what the future looks like for me. If those PSA numbers have come down to the normal level, which is for most guys about a 1 or a 2, I was up to 12, just to give you some kind of indication of what that was like. It was very, very high, and I had a very, very large prostate. So if we get those numbers back down to 1 or 2, I'm off the hook for a while, and we'll continue to monitor that for cancer for a lot of years. I will probably have annual checkups in that area just to make sure those numbers stay in line. They're checking my blood on a regular basis. That's something we definitely want to stay on top of. And I think I mentioned it. I got a neighbor here who's just finished his 6th round of chemo, and I do not want to go through. I try to spend as much time supporting him as I can, and I just don't want to go through that. So we'll be pretty aggressive about it. And Andrew, we are also glad that things are well, and excited, and Brian, thank you for that note as well. Coming out of surgery, it probably took me until maybe the first part of February to really start feeling normal again. And you go through that for 2 months, and you're kind of thinking, oh boy, I hope we didn't mess this up, and I hope it's not this way permanently. And one day it just flipped over. It was kind of weird. It just started working again, normally, or better than it ever has. So all's good. Anyways, I didn't plan to update you guys on that, but I thought maybe it'd be a good time here at the end of the show to do that as well. Certainly I'm feeling good, and that's a good sign. That's one of those kinds of things where you're just kind of glad. It was super painful and super uncomfortable for a lot of years, and it's just glad that I'm glad that that's taken care of, and we are done. We are live every Thursday, just about every Thursday. I think I'm going to take next week off for you live folks. Let me look at the calendar here really quick. did I close that? I must have. No, there it is. I am live most Thursdays. Yeah, I must have closed my calendar app. I don't think I have anything scheduled for next week. I think I'm going to take it off, and we'll let Erin's podcast sit out there for a couple weeks. And so no live show next week. I'll start working on getting some folks lined up again. I got a fairly full schedule until the beginning of June. So I'll be kind of hit or miss for April and May. Hopefully you're all set for the spring or fall if you're down in Australia or south of in the southern hemisphere. And it's one of those kinds of things. You go. We've had some health things go on with both here and neighbors and friends, and it just kind of makes you realize, like, it's good. It's sometimes good to come up for air and see what's going on around you, and spend a lot more time with my neighbors. And that doesn't mean I don't want to spend it here, but it's good to take a break from time to time. So I may take a week or two off. But generally, I'm live every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern out here at theaverageguy.tv/live. Thanks for coming out. We'll get the $20 post-show review of the $20 robot vacuum cleaner that Erin saw. I'll get your comments on it in chat. That may be kind of funny. If you support on Patreon, you get that. You'll get this automatically if you're a supporter on Patreon. You can head out to the YouTube live, theaverageguy.tv live on YouTube. And track us down here if you want to hear how it goes. Maybe you're listening to the regular podcast and you hear how it goes. Either one of those ways, you can listen to it that way. With that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.